once a month.
Hello everyone, good evening. Tonight in my channel I'm hosting a dear friend, Tony. So we are very grateful, Tony, for your time and welcome to my channel.
It's a pleasure. Merhaba.
Merhaba, thank you very much. So guys who are listening and seeing us, we met with Tony very short time ago and he was in Izmir. We had a nice time. And as I found him, he has a great experience with BBC and journalism and storytelling. So I said, can we get some of your time and then just listen to your experiences? So this is the idea of this streaming. I hope you will be enjoying this. So, Tony, before we start, and I will just jump directly into questions. I have many questions, by the way. So one entry point for me is important. What are you offering right now to the companies in the UK? So how are you helping them at this moment? If you just start with that, I will go back to my questions in a minute.
Coaching and training for people who have to be interviewed on radio or TV. That can be in good times, it can be in a crisis, and also people who have to do presentations either on a stage or increasingly through video.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, and good luck with your business. I'm sure the companies will be happy to have you to go through these important topics. Okay. All right, so I saw your CV, I look at your LinkedIn profile, and I compiled some questions, and I'm curious about most of them, many of them. So I just want to start when you start working for BBC. So what surprised you most at the BBC? What was interesting for you? What was the environment when you first start?
Well, my first day at the BBC, this is the BBC World Service in London. Mm-hmm. There was a big shock because one of my colleagues, who I never got a chance to meet, was murdered that day. He was a guy called Georgi Markov, and he was a senior broadcaster from Bulgaria. And this was before the fall of the Iron Curtain. This was in the days of the Soviet Union. And the people who live in communist-style countries do not like being mocked. And this guy was very good at mocking them. And he was killed in a very James Bond style way. He was stabbed with a pointed umbrella as he crossed the bridge. He noticed that something had happened. He thought, oh, somebody stabbed my leg. And it was an umbrella which had a special ball bearing in the tip, which was full of ricin, the deadly poison, which kills you very slowly. And it was coated with sugar so that it would take effect very slowly. So he took about 3 days to die. But that was my first introduction to the BBC World Service. So what I gather from that is this stuff is important. You know, this stuff that we are doing at the BBC, some people don't like it. They will even kill. So, you know, lesson one for me, don't treat this as a joke. This is serious stuff.
Okay. And such a surprising start. I mean, wow, that should be devastating, I would say.
In terms of the culture, that did surprise me because I've, like many people who hear the BBC World Service, it's like the newsreaders on the BBC in those days. Anyway, they sounded like the voice of God. You know, this is the BBC from London, and you think, well, wow, how can I compete with that? So when you go inside the organization, you realize that the people who have voices like that are normally ex-actors, right? They don't write the script at all. The scripts are written by people like me, although I was a very small cog in that wheel. And there are a number of different editors who think about putting the bulletin together. The World Service Bulletin is written in English by probably 5 or 6 people doing different things, and it is then translated into, when I was there, it was 36 languages. I think 42 languages now. We don't have anything to do with it once it leaves us.
Okay.
We used to have a very old-fashioned transmission system because this was before the internet, but we had to have a system of everybody quickly knowing what everybody else was saying or doing. And in those days, that was a quite hard thing to do. And I don't know if you're probably too young for this, but in shops years ago, there was a system of plastic tubes, right, where you could take a message or a container or something, and you could put a plastic tube inside a pipe, and it would go whoosh, and it would disappear, and a system would take it to the other side of the building. And the World Service had that system for taking the news from one part of the building to the other. It was really strange.
I know it from some movies, of course, and I'm from medical devices industry. There is a similar system working within hospitals for certain transportation. So I know a little bit. All right, thanks.
We would compile the bulletin for the Arabic nations. We would roll it up, put an elastic band around it, shove it into a plastic. We would stamp Arabic, and off it would go to the other side of the building. We've never seen after that.
Good old days. Perfect. Thank you. So my next question is about brevity. So we know brevity is crucial for BBC. So how can we use this in corporate world today? So I see in many cases, middle managers, CEOs, they are talking a little bit too much with a little bit too much detail, I would say. So how can we stop doing this? And what do you think about brevity? What can you say about that?
The way brevity used to be achieved at the World Service was by dictation. Normally we would type our stories, but if something was really, really urgent, we would go to a typist or a secretary. We would actually say the words that we wanted to say, and that automatically makes you quicker, and it automatically makes you summarize what you have to say. And I sometimes do that today. I don't dictate to a person anymore, but I sometimes dictate to my computer, and I find it much quicker than speaking. But everybody needs to be brief. Brevity is a skill that everybody should have, because if you just talk and talk and talk and go on and on and on, people will think, "Oh, what is he on about?" When you get to the point, please. And so you need also headlines. People need to have a headline. A headline is important. An accurate headline and a succinct headline is very important to explain what you're doing. And also, if it's too long, subheadings. I have noticed since the internet age, speeches generally have been getting shorter because different types of speech have been influencing each other. For example, some people in the Christian church, ministers of religion would make a sermon, would make a religious speech during their sermon, and that would go on for an hour in the old days. That's been getting shorter and shorter and shorter because the ministers have been looking at comedians. Comedians are doing sets which are much, much shorter. We can learn a lot from comedians because they have gags which are like they're like breadcrumbs. You don't have to concentrate for an hour. Concentrate for the next minute, and I'll tell you a gag. That makes people concentrate because you don't have people's attention automatically nowadays. You have to earn people's attention.
Exactly.
So they have to stay awake. They have to have a reason for staying awake and a reason for listening to you.
So in corporate world, I see just an extension of this question. Most of the time, the technical stuff, please consider technical stuff. So there is a new company, they created a perfect software and they are solving a problem. When they are making a presentation to investors or possible customers, so they cannot find this headline. That's what I am observing. So do you have similar observations, and how can they do that?
That's one of the things that I can help with.
Okay, all right, okay, that's crucial.
Journalists, a very handy technique is to ask questions beginning with the words, would you say that, da, 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 and then, would you say this is the best invention in the field of high tech, whatever it is you're talking about? Because if they force themselves to answer that, that means that you are on track, and you have something to, it's not a great big mess anymore. It's a specific thing that you can work on.
Okay.
It's also a way of trapping people. If a journalist says to you, would you say that so and so, and you say, well, I suppose so, the danger is that the journalist will take the whole phrase and put it into your mouth. It's very lazy, but it happens all the time. So all you've done is you said, yeah, but what appears is, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, said Mr. Smith. I remember the first time I learnt this, I went to a police press conference in Manchester many years ago. And the policeman was giving details of a murder, and he was being a bit boring, and then any questions. So the journalists, one by one, they say things like, would you say this is one of the most terrible crimes that you have ever seen in your entire 35 years in the police? And he said, well, yes, I suppose so. One of them. Great, thanks very much. So all the journalists wrote down, this is one of the worst crimes I have ever seen in my career, said the policeman. And it was true, because he didn't say that. He just said yes when we said it.
I got it, and that's a great tip.
What you should say is, no, I would not say that, but what I would say is this. And then you can put in precisely what you want to say.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was a great tip. So my next question, again with the reference to BBC, how could you and how can we balance objectivity with being engaging in our speeches? I think that's an important topic as well. So what do you say about that?
It is. The two great pillars of communication, the two big parts of communication, are truth and beauty. This was the thing that was said by a 19th century poet. I can't remember his name, but I think it's true. Something has to be true, and it also has to be in some way beautiful. And those are two sides of the coin. Things that are true but not beautiful are often boring. And we're back to the technical lectures again. Things that are beautiful but not true are showbiz. So we're into the arts then. And there are a great many elements of showbiz that are present in journalism. One of which is that news presenters are treated like actors, like chat show hosts. And really, that's not what they're supposed to be there for. But that's the way the world is going. So if you're a good journalist, I mean, I say the skill of a good journalist is asking good questions to get the story from the person, and then you put it out. More and more nowadays, the person who asks the questions becomes a celebrity. And well, really, they are just the messenger, aren't they? Aren't they just reporting what you say? Well, that's the way it should be anyway, but increasingly that's not true.
Okay, all right. Perfect. So another topic also in your career, I think is quite important. You have been training people for crisis communication for 32 years. And it's fascinating. I find it really fascinating. Yep. Which rules you learned from BBC is still valid today?
Well, be careful. If there is a crisis, there's several things to say when there is a crisis. The trouble is, if you have not prepared for the crisis, you're really in trouble. You're panicking. So the first thing is psychologically, you feel terrible. You're probably going to be all over the place. You're going to say the wrong thing. because you're feeling really stressed and panicky, you are going to say something that sounds rude or sounds wrong, or you might shout at your employee who's only trying to help you. It can all go to pieces. The first thing to happen so point one about communication, about crisis: before the crisis happens, plan for it. So what would I do if there was a crisis? Communication is one of the key things in a crisis, and the first thing you need to do is have a holding statement. You need to have a statement. Our version of what has happened is this. Formalize this. Get this form of words agreed by whoever has to agree it. Put it on your website. Spread it to everybody that needs to know it. So you say, right, this is the official version of what happened. Okay. We can't go any further than this until we learn more things. Don't plead guilty when nobody has accused you of anything.
Okay, that's tricky. Okay.
If there is a there've been a couple of big high-profile plane crashes. I mean, plane crashes are always high-profile, of course, right, because they are big, important pieces of news. But there are several ways of getting it wrong. If you come from an organization which is not used to dealing with the media, the temptation is to say, no comment, no comment. No comment is a terrible form of words. Even if there is nothing substantial to say, you have to say something. Even if it's something like, this is an absolutely awful thing that has happened. We don't know the full facts yet, but be assured that as soon as we find out, we will do the best we can to fix it. And if there are victims, if people have been killed or injured, we will look after them and we will make sure that they are all right. The opposite thing is that sometimes some people, if people are feeling insecure, they are inclined to say, oh my God, a bad thing has happened. It must be my fault. No. It's not your fault. We don't know. So the line to take is we don't know what's happened yet. It seems to be awful and we're very sorry about it, but watch this space and we'll bring you more information later. The other thing that's happened in a couple of plane crashes in the last year or two is that the friends and relatives of the people who are killed and missing on the plane have not been informed properly about what's going on. That is a big mistake. They have to, as well as having the holding statement on your website, you have to deal with the people who are waiting for news, because they can be your best friends or your worst enemies.
Right.
Deal with them very well. Give them, when you get updates of news, perhaps you give the news to them first, so that they don't feel that they've been left out before you give it public. But as soon as they start feeling resentful or thinking that you are against them in some way, they will form a sort of internal enemy. So be very, very careful of that. Some organizations don't like publicity and don't like talking about their internal affairs. In fact, some people say to journalists, what's it got to do with you? I'm not going to tell you this stuff. It's not your business. Well, back in the bad old days, most things were private, and when journalism started to be a major force sometime around the end of the 19th century, and after that point, people started making statements to journalists, and the politicians started talking to journalists. Interestingly enough, a bit of history here. I won't bore you with history too much.
No, sure. Very interesting.
The first public relations man is said to be an American journalist called Ivy Lee, who lived around 1900, and he was hired by American railway companies. Started noticing they were having a lot of crashes, and so understandably, people did not want to go on trains because they thought trains were dangerous. And so one of the big railroads in America said, okay, well, I wonder how we can change this. So they hired this PR guy, and he said, the secret of getting people to trust you is to give them information. And there was a particular crash on a railway, and he put out a statement. This is what happened. This is how many people were killed and injured. This is what happened. This is why it happened. And he hired a special train, and he took a lot of journalists from New York to see the crash site and explained what had happened and what had been done to rectify the situation. And they all went away and they wrote about the crash and what was being fixed. And of course, if you are in charge of the party, if you are seen to be authoritative, if you know what is going on, that looks really good, doesn't it? I find that if you deal well with the disaster, you often look better than if the disaster had never happened.
Okay.
Which doesn't make any sense apart from psychologically. Yeah.
Right. All right. There are a lot of examples on this in today's time, but we wouldn't go there. But what you said is really applicable to many things that we are hearing in our countries as well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And the next question is an interesting one. So at this moment, you are telling your clients, I can show you what it is like to be interviewed by Christiane Amanpour, for example.
Right.
So what it is really like and what can the middle managers learn from that? So being interviewed by a tough journalist versus maybe an entertaining one. So how do you position yourself or the main character there?
Well, the first thing that you have to realize is that this is going to be a scary experience. This is going to be this is going to make you nervous. You'll go into the studio and your mind will go completely blank. Probably you won't be able to think what to say. So with the help of somebody like me, you have a session where you try to say, what are we going to say then? Come up with 3 points, no more than 3. People cannot take any more than 3 points from an interview. So I think what are going to be our 3 points that we say, and just make sure that you have something to say around those. For every point you make, tell a story, because people don't remember facts just for the sake of facts, but they do remember nice human stories. So that's the best approach. Three main points, a story to go with each one, and be nice. I mean, it's a very, very hard thing to do because you're going into this completely artificial environment. You're surrounded by bright lights, cameras, equipment, lots of people with wires and ropes poking around, doing things that you don't understand. It's very difficult to relax in that situation, but you have to try and relax in that situation and make it seem like, oh, this is nothing. You know, I do this all day long. This is my normal environment. Because you have to have a conversation with the journalist, which seems like a normal conversation in the at a party or at a social gathering. And it's really mad because your head is telling you that this is the most important thing in the world, and she's asking you questions which are framed often in quite an informal way, an informal, casual way. So you have to impart important information while sounding as if you are talking to, I don't know, your mother. I mean, that's a lot of people do this. This is a good guide. How to stop being too technical is, imagine I'm telling this information to my mother. How would I say it?
Okay. Interesting. So just an addition to this, is there a politician or a known famous character that you think is doing this really over the top, really perfectly? Do you have any names? Trump?
Well, I don't know how closely you follow UK politics.
All right, I know some.
In Turkey. There's a character on the right called Nigel Farage.
Okay, I heard that. I heard him.
Who has a very right-wing party that's trying to get elected at the next election.
Okay.
He is, unfortunately, I mean, I disagree with everything that this man stands for. Unfortunately, he is a really good communicator.
Okay.
He has a really nice voice and a really welcoming, calm manner. he comes across like he's your friend. And that's hard to follow. This is not logical, is it? You would imagine that people make decisions based on analyzing the situation with great logic and forethought, but actually they don't. They make decisions emotionally.
Right.
There's a new character called Zach Polanski, who's the leader, newly elected leader of the Green Party. He also is a very good communicator, so I'm hoping he will redress the balance between left and right in the in the media. The others in the middle are all pretty boring. They're not very good communicators.
Okay, thanks for your comments. We go back to UK politics and figure out who is who. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, when I look at your background, I saw that you call yourself the story guy. So I'm really curious. What's the story behind that?
The story behind that is, as well as being a journalist, I have always been interested in the arts, in film and TV, and I've written for film and TV. And when I went on a 1-year distance learning course about writing for film, and I came across this interesting story about the hero's journey. I don't know if you've ever come across this, but it's
yes.
A guy in America developed, whose name has completely gone out of my head, developed this. Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell was an academic who studied ancient myths and legends, and his theory was all the famous stories that we know, that we learn at our mother's knee. The reason that they survive for a long time is that they contain truths. They contain important lessons that we can remember. So he thought, actually, this is a codification of how you impart truth. And he came up with this thing called the hero's journey. The journey. I don't know what it is like in Turkey, but in England, people are talking about journeys the whole time now on quiz shows. When I started my journey on this quiz show, but I won't go through all the steps because it will take up the time. But there are 12 steps in the hero's journey, and the reason it became popular was because the guy who wrote Star Wars, what was his name? Can't remember. The Star Wars guy. Anyway,
okay.
When he was a film student, he had this idea for Star Wars to have an imaginary world in the stars, and he couldn't get any of the studios to be interested in his idea. Then he read this theory by Joseph Campbell.
George Lucas.
That's it. Yeah, George Lucas. George Lucas applied Joseph Campbell's ideas to writing the film, and he wrote the script for Star Wars. And of course, the rest is history. It became the most popular film in history. And then everybody wanted some of the action. Everybody thought, well, tell us how it's done then. And so the hero's journey became the most popular book in Hollywood because everybody thought, if I apply these rules to my movie, it's automatically going to be successful. And some of them were, some of them weren't, because there's more to it than applying a set of rules. You have to be a good writer and have a good story anyway. But that's how this idea of a journey. We're all going on a journey. I mean, the journey in question is the journey of a human being, journey between life and death. And there are adventures along the way. It starts off with the ordinary world. So every story starts off with, I woke up this morning, it was just an ordinary day. I didn't think anything was going to happen. And then, of course, step 2 is something does happen. And so on and so on. In fact, it's more complicated than that, because step 2 is he is asked to do something and he says, no. When I say he or she is asked to do something, he says, no, I'm not doing that. That's too difficult. That's too dangerous. Then there's another reason comes up why he should do it. And eventually he does agree to go on the journey, and so on. And eventually you build up and you do a big challenge and you overcome an obstacle and you get a reward in the end. So that's a very garbled version of it. But it's interesting because I have been working out something similar for the stages of a story. The essence of the Joseph Campbell theory is, you've got a problem, you have to overcome it, you overcome it, and that's it. With little problems that occur along the way. My similar theory with the elements of news starts off with a conflict. I think every news story has to have a conflict in it somewhere along the line. It also has to have a human element. It has to have people in it. I don't know if you watch reality TV very much, but that's you don't have to be ashamed. I think reality TV is great because I think reality TV is the embodiment of the Joseph Campbell theory, and I would like to see more corporate entities doing the same thing. Like, for example, you always get a version of a employee feedback. Employee feedback can be very dull. It can be very scary. On TV, they make it into a competition. There's a very famous show in England called Strictly Come Dancing, where they have a panel of scary judges. You have people dancing, and everybody comments on them, and then they go up some stairs, and they get other feedback in a slightly different way from a different judge. But it's quite interesting because feedback used to be really, really scary inside organizations, but this is a way of making it fun. So there's two ways of approaching a story. From the starting point of beauty, which is razzmatazz, showbiz, ceremony, or from the starting point of truth, like these are the facts. And the perfect story is those two ideas bonded together.
Perfect.
And the same thing applies whether it doesn't really matter what kind of vehicle you're talking about. This could be a TV interview, this could be a speech on the stage, or it could be a podcast. It's still a story in different ways.
Okay.
And I can help you with any of that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And I got some ideas already. I mean, this hero's journey I heard and I saw it before, but I can go back and see how it turns into corporate stories. I would say that's the area I'm working on. So my next question is, what are the top 3 tips to feel and be comfortable in front of the camera from your experience?
Oh, right. Keep it simple. Everybody says be authentic nowadays. It's become a kind of mantra. So yes, you should be authentic. But what that means is don't pretend to be something that you are not, or somebody that you are not. That is surprisingly common, and it can get you into trouble. When you are in the presence of somebody you want to impress, like you're having a job interview or you're meeting your girlfriend's parents for the first time, it's very tempting to pretend to be more important, more clever, or whatever than you really are, and that will get you into trouble. So I say, relax, be natural. There is only you are you. Everybody else is taken. So just relax, and if you, as presented honestly, is not good enough, then fine. Then it wasn't to be. But be yourself. Be honest. The 3 tips for going in front of interviews generally: be prepared, be natural, and be in control. So the be natural is covered by be yourself. Certainly be prepared. Try and figure out what you're going to be asked. Try and figure out if there is a killer question that you would hate to be asked. And if you can think, what would be the killer question for me? That's the one that's going to be asked, isn't it? That's the one that's definitely going to come up. So prepare. Yeah. What will I say if I am asked this question?
Right.
Murphy's Law. Thought about it. If you prepared it for a bit, it will not be so difficult. The worst questions are the ones that you haven't thought of, because you just think, oh, I don't know, I didn't think of that. But you can't really say that in public because you just look silly.
Right. Thank you for these 3 tips. Being in control is a little bit a deeper topic, isn't it? I mean, you said, third tip is being in control, but are you saying it for ourselves or in control of the conversation? That's what you mean, or more control of ourselves?
I was talking specifically about radio and TV interviews.
Okay.
They are quite intimidating. So there is a danger of treating it like an interview with the police or with the judge or something. A journalist has no real power. A journalist is very good at appearing to have a lot of power and appearing to be a very authoritative person, but you don't have to answer a journalist's questions if you don't want to. This is an entirely voluntary thing. The journalist asks you, will you do an interview with me? You say yes, but you don't have to say yes. If you want to say no, fine. There is nothing that will force you to be on an interview if you don't want to. I would say that most of the time it's good to do it rather than not do it, because the broadcasters are they are in charge of getting you publicity. They can give you publicity, so take advantage of it. And if you are sufficiently prepared, you will come across looking better rather than looking worse. But there should be something in it for you. This is one of the things that you should discuss with your colleagues before you do the interview. There should be something in it for me, and there should be something in it for them. So think about, what are those things? Is there really something in it for us to do this interview at this time? If there isn't, don't do it.
All right, thank you for that, and I hope some top managers or CEOs has heard this. Doing it is better than most of the time not doing it. Okay, great. Yeah. So today is a different time, Tony, and today everybody is shooting video on their phone, and there are many multiple platforms, and we are shooting and then releasing ourselves. So which principles from BBC or your experience do you think are still valid in the smartphone era? What do you think about that?
I think they are all valid.
All right.
Everybody can be a journalist, and more people can try. Because you can shoot on your phone, and the quality of phone cameras now is really good. You can shoot movies on them. And there are editing programs like CapCut and others, Big View, that are just fantastic. I mean, I find it hard to remember. I mean, I feel like a dinosaur sometimes. When I started at the BBC Television, I used to go out with a camera crew, and the camera crew would shoot an interview on film. They would then take the film physically back to the studio, and then it would have the film would have to go in an editing tank. There would be like a chemistry laboratory in part of the building where the film would have to be developed like photographs in the old days, and it would take 1 hour for the film that had just been shot to go up and down through this tank until it was developed, and then it was dried, and then when it was ready, it would be edited by a film editor who would snip it into pieces and would assemble the footage just by going like that, like doing a sort of like playing with the child's toy.
I can't imagine, really.
Yeah. Those were the days. Anyway, it's much better now, and anybody can have a go, and it's so much more democratic. Anybody can be, if I want to be Tony Cole's local TV service, I can be.
You can.
Talking about corporate interest, there is no reason why a company cannot have its own internal TV channel. Do the whole thing on YouTube. Just get people to interview each other, report on what they've been up to. That can be quite entertaining. I haven't seen it done yet, but I'm waiting for the first person to invite me to sort that out for them.
Okay. Perfect, nice. All right, Tony, another curiosity from my side. There might be many people from different countries watching now, or they will watch this video maybe later from my channels. So any advice you can give to non-native English speakers, as we are here audience from many countries? I mean, is there something that you can give us some insights that we can update our speaking skills?
Speak slowly.
Okay.
Much slower. I mean, I hope I've been speaking slow enough in this interview.
Yes, it's very nice.
It's hard to do because when you get excited, you get faster and faster and faster and faster. So I have to tell myself, slow down. Pauses are really good. The acronym is PIP, P-I-P-P, which stands for pace, inflection. Inflection means how your voice goes up and down, like the tune of your voice. Pitch, which means volume, and pauses.
Pauses,
so if you think about all those things, try and make your voice pleasant. Every now and again, there should be a pause. Pauses are really good. Pauses make you think about what has just been said, what will be said in a minute. Pace means you don't go too fast or too slow. Inflection means you have a nice tune, a nice flow when you're speaking. And pitch, pace, inflection. Yep. That's it, and that gives you the best chance of understanding. Be really careful about don't tell English jokes, because English jokes. I mean, this is really advice for English people talking to non-native audiences. But we are so fond of jokes. We love jokes, and many English jokes are based on double meanings.
Right.
So one word which means two things, and sometimes the second meaning is a bit rude or vulgar. Often that's the source of an English joke. So beware of that, and beware of possible confusions. When I worked at the World Service, there were some people who could still remember when the Americans landed on the moon in 1969, and this caused all kinds of confusion with some parts of the world, because the word in their language for the moon was the same as the word for the moon goddess. So I'm sure there were riots in the streets in some places because the Americans have landed on the goddess. No, they haven't. So this took some explaining. So beware of things that have two meanings, and make sure that you only get the other one. The other famous mistake was, the expression "out of sight, out of mind."
Yes, we have a similar one in Turkish.
You don't think of it.
We have a similar one in Turkish. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody translated that into Russian as "invisible but insane," which. So that caused a lot of confusion. I used to like the translations in the World Service. We used to have a Mandarin Chinese translator, and he would come in when the World Service bulletin was finished in English. He would translate it into Mandarin, of course, using just a pen, making the strokes. And then when he had finished, a Cantonese translator would come in, and they could both read the same script. I found this fascinating because Chinese writing is pictures.
Yeah,
it's like, I suppose it's the same idea as if I see 1 2 3 4 5, you could see 1 2 3 4 5, but of course you'll be thinking of Turkish words for 1 2 3 4 5. So I suppose it's the same kind of thing. But you can translate Chinese using two people and one script and come up with a completely different set of words.
Interesting.
So I'm rambling, I'm sorry.
No, that was great. So my next topic is actually related to what you were just saying. I'm curious about the humor, usage of humor, mostly on leadership communication. I mean, imagine you are a CEO of, I don't know, 200 people, 500 people, and you have to set up a certain communication line internally as well. I mean, I put funny singer because you call yourself funny singer as well. So how do you position humor in corporate communications, I would say?
Well, I'm waiting for somebody to create the first corporate musical. I think that would be great.
Okay, all right.
Instead of having an annual conference, why don't you have a musical about everything that the company has done? How I started on this was when I was at BBC Radio Manchester. We've only been talking, by the way, about the BBC World Service. That was the beginning of my BBC career. The rest of it was in local radio, which is in many ways a lot more instructive, because that's where you learn to interview. You go out on the street, you meet real people, you learn how to interview people for a broadcast, you learn to edit, and you learn how to put bulletins together. The difference in standard is in quality control is quite marked. In the World Service, it takes about 6 people to assemble a bulletin. In local radio, it's one person's job. So that was a shock to start with. Anyway, I was in one Christmas. There were no, there's no news at Christmas, big holiday. Everybody goes on holiday for a week. The news editor said, I don't have enough items to put in the morning program on New Year's Day. So I said, half jokingly, I said, shall I write a song about the events of last year, and I'll record it for you, and that will fill up the hole in your program? And the news editor said, that's fantastic. Yes, I can. If you do that and you deliver it, I can go home then. That's great. So I wrote a song summarizing the events of that year. I recorded it myself in the studio. It was played on BBC Radio Manchester. It was very popular, and that was the start of a 2-year commission. I was doing journalism, and every week I would write a song about something that had been in the news. And then I moved down to Bristol, and I got the same job on TV. I did that for 2 years on ITV Bristol. So there will still be some very old people who are like, oh, you're that man who sang songs on TV. But anyway, I've written comedy as well, and I've done shows at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. But yeah, there are lots of opportunities for humour, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. And it doesn't, and it can also be, it's a fine line, but it can also be respectful. You don't have to worry about it being disrespectful to the authority. There are lots of opportunities, and it's also, you're interested in staff engagement. It's a great way of making the staff involved in their company.
Exactly, that was in my mind.
Something that's funny or amusing. Yeah.
Perfect. So I spent some years in Toastmasters. Probably you heard about that, the public speaking club. And I know I have many friends really diving into public speaking. So there are many interested people. They may see this video later as well. So you created something called interview-based speeches.
Oh, yeah.
What were you meaning by that? So how can we learn about it?
If you have a commission to speak at an event, excuse me, if you are going to speak on a stage at an event, I would say one of the quickest ways of getting it together, if you're not particularly happy to sit down in front of a blank sheet of paper, this freaks people out. Particularly if they come from an academic or technical background, the idea of sitting in front of a piece of paper and you have to say, right, you've got to write 500 words or 1,000 words, and it's got to be really witty and entertaining and erudite and all the rest of it. Some people just see the white paper and they think, oh, I can't do that. So I can help with that, which is that I basically interview them. So I ask them every question under the sun about their topic. And then after I've done that, I write it all down. and then I go through and I chop out all the questions and I chop out all the flannel, and then fairly quickly we have a speech. It might not be perfect,
all right,
but it's
okay.
But it's a lot quicker and easier.
But it's easy. It's easy to answer a question and you know, form your sentences while answering a question. I got your point, and that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. All right, Tony, thank you very much. That was a perfect full 50 minutes. I really enjoyed, and I'm sure many people will watch this video later on, and they will have the same feelings. Just my last question. I mean, again, from where you are coming from to looking at the corporate world today. I mean, it can be UK, it can be Turkey, it can be Asian countries. What are some of the suggestions you might have for the CEOs when it comes to in a broader range of you know, communication? Maybe talking to media, it can be, or how to communicate the top level, you know, top level targets of the company, the mission of the company, and then get it down to, you know, all the employees. It's one of the features that impacts employee engagement a lot, that people trust the CEO, and if he can articulate it in a right way, it really changes how people feels engaged to the company and in the cause. So do you have a couple of tips on that lastly?
Well, I'm very keen on interviews, and sometimes it's very effective if the CEO is the interviewer. If you get a camera and a mic and you just walk around the company and you just ask people about their jobs and about their lives and what they like.
Nice.
That means that the CEO appears to be, you know, he listens to what people want, and he's approachable and he's a man of the people. You know, that's a very effective technique. Or interviewing him, but actually him being the interviewer, because I think CEOs should think of themselves as journalists. They're compiling the truth and then spreading out the truth again.
It's interesting. It's interesting to think it that way. Interesting. Nice. Interesting. Okay. I mean, basically what I heard is that if CEO puts themselves as a journalist, as seeking the truth, I mean, between the corridors, you say they can get a lot of insights that they wouldn't normally get, right?
Yeah.
That I understand correctly. Okay. Perfect. Very, very interesting idea, and I will develop this idea for me as well. All right. Again, thank you very much, Tony, for your time. It was very interesting, a lot of insights, and I hope to see you again in Izmir sometime, maybe for a pleasure visit. And I will be happy to connect with you again from now on. Thank you very much. Really, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bertay. I've enjoyed it. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Have a very nice evening. See you then.